Everyone, I hope you're having an amazing day. So today I'm going to talk about for loops using maps and for loops using Sobject. So the for loops using Sobject will demonstrate to you how to use a so-called query in an Apex code, right? So that's one of the aspects I wanted to talk about today. In my last episode, I talked about for loops using list and sets, and I also talked about other version of for loops, right, where you declare a variable and then you set a condition and then increment or decrement the variable, right? So if you haven't watched that episode, I would highly encourage you to please check that out. I'll put the link in the I button at the top, right? So that will help you get sorted if you're interested in that video, right? Okay, so the first thing first, you need to register for an org if you haven't done so, because I know that you might be saying that why this guy talk about every single time about registering for an org, because the reason why I want you guys to do hands-on, right? And there's no point in watching my video and not doing hands-on. Okay, all right, so I've logged into my org, so let's jump into the developer console. I'm confident that you guys by now know how to get into developer console, right? That's cool. All right, so let's jump into developer console. Okay, and we're gonna go to debug here. Okay, and we're gonna go to anonymous window. So let me clear all of this stuff here. Okay, so as I said, I'm gonna talk about the maps. Maps are a bit different, right? Maps is a collection data type, right? But it's a bit different to list and sets. I've talked about maps in my collection data type video, and please check it out. I'll put the link as well, okay, in the I button, so you can check that out. So I just wanted to repeat again, maps are like a key value pair. So you have a key and then you have a value, right? So if you wanted to get the value, you have to use the key. That's simple. It's like gaining an access to a house, right? To get inside a house, you need to have a house key, right? And so if you wanted to, or other example is to go to your bank locker, right? In good old days, people used to have the safe boxes in a bank, right? Where you used to go and put in the key and take the data out, right? So that's similar concept what we use maps here for, okay? So the way to define map is that you can define map here as map keyword, okay? And then you have to define your key. Key could be string, key could be integer. So for the sake of argument, we're going to use integer just to keep it simple, okay? And the value, it could be an Sobject, it could be of any data type, right? So for now, we're going to keep it to string just to make it simple, okay? And we're going to name it as like a test map, okay? And we're going to say new, okay? Map and integer string, right? And we close it, okay? And then we close it, okay? Now let's add two value to the map, because I will do for now, because we are dealing with collection, right? We need more than one value. So, okay, so we're gonna do test map dot put. So this is how you put a value to a map. So I'll put 1, that's the key, and let me put A as the value, okay? As I said, I wanted to keep it very simple. I just don't want to make it complicated, because I wanted to explain to you what I'm doing as well. Because there's no point in making it fancy looking map, right? Maps, you can do maps inside map, you know, then you can put, you know, nested maps, right? But just to keep it simple now. We have to put, and maps do not accept duplicates. So, okay, so if I put 1 again here, so what happens is that it will replace the value of A with B, because if you're using the same key, right? So what I meant by that is that if I run this code, okay, till here, I will have a map with the value of A and the key 1. Then if I'm going to try the same code, the second line of a code, then what will happen is, let's say if I try this, it will replace the value of A with B, because the key value is same, right? Because it do not accept duplicate keys, so it will override the value of the same key. Okay, so that's how it is. Excuse me. And let's run the for loop. So for each or for in whatever, you know, programming language you have used before. Even if you haven't used it, you can say that it's a loop for collections, right? Okay, so the maps are a bit different compared to lists and sets. I just wanted to make it very clear, because in sets, the difference, I'll tell you what it is. Most of the part associated with the collections are similar. For instance, you have to query a key first, right? In lists, right? So if you imagine this is a list, so normally you used to do string, then declare a value, declare a variable, then you loop through the list, right? That's how you used to do with the list or for the sets. But in terms of maps, right, as I explained to you before, map relies on the key, right? If you wanted to get a value, you have to use the key. You can't get the value and then get the key. It's not going to work other way around. You have to get the value of the key first and then use that key to get the value, okay? I'll explain to you what I meant. So as I said, that our key is of integer type, right? This is our key, and this is a value, right? Key, it's always key value pair, okay? So integer is the key here. So you type the key, integer. It's similar, right? What we use for list. Then we say I, right? And then I will say map. So this is a collection test. So now the difference here is that we won't use something like this, okay? Because this won't work, because we have to loop through the key set, right? We have to loop through the keys. We can't loop through the entire collection here. So what we're gonna do, there is a method here that's called key set, okay? So this will loop through the key, okay? Let me show you what I meant by that. So let me put I, okay? Sorry, I, and let me run it. You see this? So 1, 2, right? Because we are looping through the keys 1 and 2. That's why, that's how you start with a map, okay? Now I wanted to get the value as well. So the way to get the value in map is pretty straightforward. So you do system.debug, okay? And so you use the value test map, okay? Test map dot get, and pass the value of I. So what I'm telling is, I'm telling to the collection map, like, here's the key, okay? Give me the value associated with the key, right? Here's the key, and I wanted to access the value corresponding to that key. So the way to do that, just say collection.get, and you pass the value of the key, okay? So that's how you get the value of a map which belongs to a specific key, okay? So let's run this. It's pretty straightforward. I know that it can get overwhelming if you haven't seen map or haven't used map or haven't used anything to do with the key value. So stay with me. I'll try to make it as simple as I can, okay? So you see 1A. So 1 is the value of the key, and A is the value associated with the key. Okay, 2 is the key, and B is the value associated with the key 2. Right? Sounds nice and simple, right? So this is how we use the for loop. We can't use the, we can't use the other one, right? For int I kind of stuff, right? So that's why these loops are powerful for collections, right? So this is how we can use for the maps, and maps are often used in Apex programming. You will encounter a scenario where you have to use the maps, okay? So you have to know how to use maps. So that's one of the reasons why I am demonstrating you how to use the maps and how to use in a loop, okay? Now, the second thing, let me comment this code out, okay? I'm not gonna delete it. And I'm gonna use, I'm going to show you how to use the SOCL code in an Apex, right? This is the most common used code. In other words, you will be using SOCL in Apex if you wanted to use Apex to get the data, right? So let's say let me give you a scenario, okay? So you have an account object, okay? An account object has a name. So whatever stupid reason, right, your client decides to append, the value of your name, account name with a, dash, right? This is the requirement, and you have to do with using Apex. I repeat that again. You have an account. Let's say you wanted to append, let's say 10 accounts, a name, with a dash, right? Every account, right? Irrespective of whatever condition. So you have to use the circle in your code, right? So use the circle in your code. So you can use, so the best way to do that, obviously is using Apex, right? So I'm going to demonstrate that, how to do that. And I will also talk about bulkification and the bad practice of writing code. So first of all, I will demonstrate you how to get the data from an subject, right? And to a collection. That's the first thing I'm going to demonstrate, okay? So our requirement is to get the 10 account to a collection, okay? So write a SOQL query, right? So I hope you guys know how to write a SOQL query. You're a Salesforce admin, and most of the Salesforce admin do know how to write a SOQL query. I'm not going to explain to you SOQL query here, how to write a SOQL, because it's not a SOQL tutorial, it's an Apex tutorial. So my apologies for that. If you want me to cover SOQL, I will do that later once I finish it, but not now. Okay, so for now, just remember very simple syntax, okay? So I wanted to get a list of accounts, okay, to a collection. So how to do that? So first to define list, okay? And this is an account object, okay? So if you wanted to know the name, API name of any object, you have to go to Object Manager and look at it, right? So for instance, if you have a custom object, right? Say a beer sold or whatever custom object you make, right? So you have to get the API name from the Object Manager. So probably like beer sold underscore C, right? Something like that. So you have to get the right name from the Object Manager. That's the best way, okay? So so I'm gonna say ACC list, okay? And now watch. Here I'm gonna write SOQL query. So you have to put in the brackets first of all, okay? So I'm gonna do select, right? ID, name, from account, okay? And I want to limit to 10, okay? So what I'm doing here is that I'm getting 10 accounts and storing that as subject value of an account, which is account, to this collection, ACC list. That's all I'm doing here, okay? So the requirement is I wanted to change, so this is the requirement, to change account name to account name plus underscore, right? This is all. So what I meant by that, if your account name is, let's say, Peter, it will become Peter underscore, right? Like I said, it's a stupid requirement, but just for the sake of argument, let's say this is what we're gonna implement right now, right? Okay, so we got 10 accounts, and we're not putting any condition on account, which accounts we want. Random 10 accounts, right? Doesn't matter which account. So we're getting 10 accounts, okay? Now, we are going to use the for loop to loop through this account, okay? So we can do for, okay? And now, if you remember, in my previous episode, I talked about when you are using a list, right? We always take into consideration the data type that is in the list, okay? In this case, it's account. So we copy that and write it here, account, okay? And we declare a variable, okay, A, or whatever, meaningful name, okay? And then we copy this account list, all right? See, this is not a map, so we're not dealing with any keys or values, okay? So it's a simple list, all right? So now we can do a very simple way, okay? And now I'm going to show you how to do that. A.name equals to A.name plus underscore, okay? So we have appended it, okay? Now we need to update it, right? Because we need to update the value, right? That's because just by appending a value of a name will not do anything, because we're just looping it, right? We have different commands, right? In Apex, like insert, which insert a data into an S subject, okay? Update, which will update the data, okay? And delete, which will delete the data, okay? And so these are the three basic ones. There are more, but I'm not going to touch on those one now, okay? So the bad practice, okay? Let's talk about bad practice. Okay. Let me run this one for a second, okay? Let me run this. Where is the error? Let me see. Right, let me close one. So we are doing the count. Update I. It's okay to me. Let's see what is this. Okay. Right. Let me see. Hang on a second. Just a second. Sometimes. Right. Let's see if this works first. Okay. So the problem is here. Name from accounts limit. Does it make a sense? Okay. ID name from account. Hang on. Just a second, let me. Okay. Limit. Okay, 10, I think. Hang on. Ah, oh, sorry, my bad. It's just a spelling mistake. Ah, oh, bugger. Okay, let me put it back. I was thinking, what the heck is going wrong? Okay. My apologies for that. Yeah, sometimes, right? I mean, it's just right in front of your face, then you try to figure, what the heck is going wrong? What is going wrong? So, exactly. You know, it happens to me at times, right? My apologies. All right, so let me see if this works or not, okay? All right, no problem. You would say, oh, okay. So it just works because it's appended, you know, so, and let's have a look at the so-called query, okay? So we're going to do, okay, select a name from account order by last modified date. Hopefully this is the last modified date. Okay, so you see we have appended this name, right? If you can see that. So these are the accounts. I mean, my apologies, I got a lot of bad data, but the point is that I have appended it, okay? Now, you might be thinking, oh, this code works. Why do I worry about it? This is very, very, very bad practice. This is absolutely a rubbish piece of a code, right? The reason why is that you're actually trying to do an update inside a for loop, which is a big no, because you're gonna hit a so-called limit, right? Because in Salesforce, as I explained to you, is a multi-tenant architecture, right? So if you're gonna do a so-called insert statement, right, which is a DML statement inside a for loop, it will hit, okay? So let me give you a very classic example. I don't know if I have a count that, right? And let's say 1,000, maybe. Okay. It's gonna take ages. See, too many DML statement, right? Too many DML statement. Okay, this is exactly what I meant, because you hit the so-called limit, right? Now this is actually not a good code whatsoever, okay? Now, this is what I was trying to say, that because you have exceeded the DML statement, right? Now, let's say I wanted to change this just to say, you know, add, okay? To see whether stuff works or not, because I wanted to show you the best way to write a code. So we hit the so-called limit, which is not good, right? So the best way to do it, so let's put in the collection. Okay, so we're gonna do list of accounts, right? And come on, so ACC collection equals to new list of account, right? And so what we're gonna do, ACC dot add. Okay. Update. Right. So this is still, we can do a lot of improvement in this code, but I'm just trying to teach you how to bulkify your code, right? The mistakes you can make, because if you are coming fresh to Apex from other development language, you might make this mistake, because I've done that initially, right? Because Salesforce, as I said, it's a multi-tenant architecture, right? So you have to keep into consideration your DML limits, a governor limits, what we call, right? So you have to understand that. You have to keep that in mind. It's very important. Okay, let's run it. Okay, and let's see what happens. I mean, it's gonna take some time. So, okay, so we haven't encountered any so-called limit, right? You see that? So let's see. It's gonna run its own time. So you have to pay special attention to the governor limits, right? You have to understand that very well. If you're an admin, I'm pretty sure you know already about governor limits, so I'm not going to talk about that. If you're not sure, you can please read the help documentation. They talked about governor limits on callouts. They talked about governor limits on DML statements. They talked about different stuff. Okay, so just read it. Okay, so let me run this. Okay. Right, just a second. Let me run this 10 for now, because I don't think so we have. And a name plus x. XYZ, okay, for now. For some reason. And a second. Oh, come on. I run the queries again. You see? Right, so as you can see, right, what I've done, okay, I ran two pieces of code, okay, one with less value, one with more value, okay. Before, when I ran the query, right, it pretty much took the same value from a cache, okay. Now you can see that I did add sign, right? It appended add sign for every account name, okay. You see, it's pretty nice, right? So there was no DML statement error, right? There was no so-called limits, okay. So this is what I was trying to do. So so I tried to append the second time as well. So just to show that it works. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I wanted to talk about today, right? So you need to read about DML statements, a limitation, the governor limits around DML statements, around other stuff, okay? Because it's very important to understand, because at times you might do a customization where you might have to issue different statements, right? And you have to balance it out, okay? If it exceeds the limit, right, that will not work, okay? So the same goes to when you're creating a flow, right? So different things you have to keep into consideration. So my main intention of today's episode is just to show you how to use the for loop using Sobject and using maps, okay? Because you'll be using so-called query in your Apex code, right? That's the beauty of Salesforce Apex, right? Because you have to, if you have to append, if you have to, update or delete or, insert a data, you have to use it this way, okay? Something similar. Right, and then we have database insert, you can do partial insert, right? And it's obviously good to do an error handling. We will talk about all of this, right, eventually, okay? Today's episode is all about loops, okay? So this marks the end of loops, okay? We talked about do while, we talked about while loops, we talked about for loops, we talked about, for loops with collections, okay? The next time we're going to talk about important thing, that's the classes, okay? What are classes? What are objects? What is a polymorphism? What is, virtual methods? We're going to talk about that, all of this stuff, right? Cool stuff, nice and easy, okay? That being said, I hope you have an amazing day. Take care.